GMI, everybody. Good
Z-
morning.
ZM today, my friend. Today is a historical moment.
ZM.
Oh yeah, today is the ZK EVM launch day from Polygon, and so
Oh,
today
shit.
is a historical ZM morning, a little bit more scaled up than the typical GM.
That's awesome. So, what exactly is in store for this launch? You
Well,
know,
it's now live. It went live about an hour ago. Vitalik sent the first public transaction on it. I was on the ETH Global call with them, with Sandeep, Mahalo, Vitalik, the whole crew's over there. And so I will say that it was absolutely wonderful, and it just tickles my heart to see Vitalik sending the first transaction and feeling compelled to send the gas price at 69.0420, and had a little specific hex data to log into there. A million constraints for man, unconstrained scalability for mankind.
hmm.
And so that's now been sent in live. So it's happening as we speak. I saw an announcement in the Polygon Discord that ironically they deleted pretty quickly. I was halfway through reading it and it disappeared. So I'm sure it'll come back up. But I did see a kind of their list of early protocol deployments for the ZK EVM. And it turns out that Lens and Balancer are both going to be two of the bigger names that deploy on the ZK EVM, maybe already there as we speak.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Lens and balancer. Well, I could see lens being the first for sure. They need it for scaling.
Well, there's going to be a lot of like confusion here in the immediate time. I can tell because there's SuperNet discussion and there's ZK discussion, and they're two different things, right? So like you have the Polygon POS network, which you've been using, and then the SuperNets are going to deploy on top of that. So they're going to be built on top of the Polygon POS. If you've been on Avalanche and seen the subnets model that Avalanche uses, SuperNets are very similar in structure. So it's kind
Hmm.
of stacked on top of the existing POS, but creating dedicated transaction areas. So that way, like all of the lens stuff is happening in one specific sidechain, right? All of the balancer stuff in one specific sidechain, all the gotchi stuff in one particular sidechain. Whereas the ZK EVM is a totally different chain. It's not the same at all. It is stacked directly on top of Ethereum. You use ETH as gas on ZK EVM. It is what's considered a true L2. So it is 100% built on top of Ethereum settlement, whereas SuperNets and our typical POS are going to still be its traditional rails.
With an extension, essentially.
Exactly correct. A layer on top of a layer, quite honestly. So it's getting a little bit meta in terms of SuperNets.
Hmm. I worry about the not security of the POS chain, but I think that's been somewhat proven. But the security of these extensive, the next layer of these chains. I don't know if all of them are going to be super secure because now the onus is on them, right, to secure their own chain.
That is true. I don't know. Ironically, I think it might be a little bit more. If anything, what we're going to give away is maybe a sense of like permissionless and decentralization, because the value of the supernet is that the validator of it, or whoever's operating the supernet, say Aavegotchi in particular for the Gotchi chain, they get to determine and set the parameters for what else deploys on their dedicated chain. So they don't it's not permissionless in the sense that you and I can go over there and just fire off a smart contract onto the Gotchi chain. We need their permission to launch on the Gotchi chain. So for that reason, if a controller is prudent, then they should be more secured than typical because it isn't permissionless. Whereas if you're bad about managing your own security, then you get tricked into deploying something that you shouldn't be, give approval for something malicious, then you'll have literally let the wolf into the henhouse.
Hmm. It's kind of like an Axie Infinity situation,
A little
where
bit.
yeah,
Yeah, it's very similar to that. If Ronan lived inside of ETH, and was its own dedicated situation and handed over its own dagger, that's similar to what could happen. And honestly, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. I love when people get wrecked. It's a reminder that this is a live construction scene, right? This is not pretty and proper. This is all happening as we speak.
well, I think there are going to be vulnerabilities, but I do think the Pixelcraft team is probably already thinking ahead about this. Like, how do you see how do you feel about the community securing this? Being in charge of the security of their own chain, because essentially, from what I understand, uh, if we have Gotchi chain, it's going to be community run validators that are actually uh, like validating transactions to the POS chain.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just the network itself, the network of users are indeed the validator pool, and so by default, that's community sourced. It'll be interesting. I'm curious to see what kind of like node requirements there are. If there's going to be decentralized staking, Light Piglet was showing some really cool stuff about the decentralized virtual ETH staking. I'm wondering if stuff like that will be applicable within the supernets, so that way lots of people can micro contribute to staking.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for guilds to be. I would love, in addition to petting, there would be other services out there for staking as well. So now, just extending out to guilds, organizations like maybe even GMI, possibly. I don't know.
There's Piglet already reading the future, right? Liquid State Ghost. That'd be a fun thing.
That
That's
would be.
that's it's up to us, right? This is our mission. This is our charge. Is we get to define our own chain. There's not going to be anybody to tell us what the best practices are. Just like we don't have good guidance on how to operate our DAO or how to develop our game. We are still having to pioneer our own path.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, did you have an opportunity to recharge this weekend? I know, wasn't it Natasha's birthday? Was that Friday or Saturday?
That was Saturday. Yeah.
Right on, man. Did you guys get out of the house? Get to go do
Oh
some
yeah.
enjoyable stuff? We got some more
Yeah.
snow here on the ground yesterday, so it's kind of meh.
We my favorite thing to do on birthdays is go hit up all the free shit. So like I know where you can get all the free stuff. We had a local dispensary here, so got a little bit of free weed. Went
Oh
to
man,
like
that's the best.
went to like a Jugo juice, went to like a fish and chips place, went and had a burger. It was all birthday perks, you know what I mean?
You have a free raid list.
Yep. And I don't care, like, even if we all make it and like I have the money to go just splurge, I'm still gonna do the free birthday shit, man, because it just feels good. It's like, here, it's your birthday. Take this.
You
Just
got
like
to you,
don't
you
even
had to
pay for it.
always accept gifts.
Yep.
You don't have to always eat them or utilize them, but accept gifts.
Absolutely. So we went and did that. We got a bunch of free shit and it felt good.
Hey, we got some calls today, don't we? What's going on today? How are we? We're gonna have another busy week, I'm sure, in front of us.
We do have some calls today. We have uh wait, hang on. This guy can't kill me yet.
Oh, it's old Finland, man. That guy lives in there. First thing that's happening here is I think the Thrive Coin call starts in an hour, doesn't it? Is that at 10 a.m. Mountain, 9 a.m. yours? I think that's happening soon.
Yeah. So that's first, and then we have Quest GPT, I think, with Louisa.
Yeah, that'll be at noon your time, 1 my time. That'll be a interesting conversation to see what she's got going on. If you haven't taken a real deep dive into her product suite over there at Community One, it's really intriguing. 10:30, perfect. So a little bit of extra time there on the ThriveCoin call. There's a lot of discussion going on in the DAO forum there. Let me ask you, in your opinion, are we officially mothballing the discourse forum in lieu of the DAO Discord forum?
I think we've had enough time to test it to kind of let go of that.
What do you personally, do you have any opinions about one or the other? Anything that
Yeah.
the discourse gave us that we don't have anymore, or is this
Well,
easier and lighter and a little more like better located?
I'm not gonna miss the discourse, to be honest. I wasn't all that engaged over there, so it was just like this. It's people talk about things being siloed in our ecosystem. I think that's definitely one of them. It's like, why do we have a separate forum on some separate hosting site that you have to go to? It should all be in the Discord. I know the forums in GMI maybe not the like they're not getting the best um, engagement. But
We don't have a lot of real work, and is the issue in GMI. Like it's just
yeah,
kind of goofiness, we're mostly just chit chatting. So a lot of it kind of defaults into the general room. But I think it works well when we have a dedicated topic that needs breakout.
yeah, the DAO really does make sense though to have the DAO forum. I mean, the DAO is a forum, so it should have its own like built-in function in the Discord for sure.
So, have you had a chance? I mean, especially if you took Sunday off, there's a lot of chatter and a lot of different topics and discussions. Have you done any kind of backlogging into any of the stuff?
Honestly, no. I was just hanging out yesterday
That's
and
good. Honestly, it's nice to just unplug
haven't
sometimes.
looked haven't looked at anything, to be honest. I logged in this morning, and I'm here now. So we'll start with that, and then I'll work my way through.
Is that brand new there, Light Piglet? He just dropped a civil action lawsuit titlings against Binance from the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, which is a little bit unique because typically the SEC is the one doing the witch hunting. To see the CFTC kind of getting involved is a little bit more intriguing. They were always kind of considered the more reasonable of the parents.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've heard a lot of talk lately about the SEC losing uh, their access, honestly, to crypto completely in terms of regulatory body.
Interesting. So does that
Well,
mean that we're moving out of the realm of security-based definitions, moving more
I
into the
think
realm of
so.
commodity-based definitions, which is still fine. There's still regulation that they can attack us with and whatnot, but that does seem to be kind of a major policy shift.
Yeah, certain cryptos definitely do pose as securities, but I could make the case that a lot of them are more of a commodity. When we're talking about metaverse resources, like is Alchemica an investment? I don't think so. I mean, you could look at it that way if you're long enough time horizon, uh,
There
but in
are
my
there are
opinion,
there are no stocks that I can exchange for structures.
yeah. And so I think Alchemica, in my opinion, for example, is more of a commodity. Same with glitter, more of a commodity. Um, Ethereum probably a mix of both, which is why it's a little bit muddy there because it could be looked at as a commodity or an investment. So it'll be interesting to see, like you said, what happens moving forward.
A little bit calm in the arena this morning, it looks like.
I'm getting a little duel started with Finland here. I picked up some Alchemica.
Here we go. Let's see how you do. I'm watching closely. Get them. Yeah, perfect. Type 1 second, hang on, and then just charge them.
Okay, just gotta set the expectations here.
All right, make it happen. You still consider yourself a ranger, huh? You're pretty decent with that sniping.
That's hard. He says that's hard. I know, buddy.
Y'all like two rattlesnakes just dancing around each other here. What's going on? Here we go.
Ah,
Oh, he's chewing you up, man. He's got some serious regen, or he potioned up.
no, it's because he literally took the Alchemica I gave him and probably
Bought
made.
potions.
Yeah, dude.
You gave the arrow of demise to your enemy.
No, it looks like it's a
And now you're
losing
gonna run
battle
into the
here.
fire.
I can't hit him for some reason. I'm trying to. Maybe it's his evasion on his
He's
dodging,
dodging.
but
He's dodging everything you're throwing.
yeah,
Oh, that was just kind of
that
embarrassing.
was rough.
Oof, that was rough. All right, man. So we're gonna have a lot to do this week. There's some good action happening. I made a lot of progress on the charter. I know we were talking about that. I will absolutely have something to you hopefully by tomorrow morning, and so that way you'll be kind of prepped for your meetings this week. You're mentioning some friends that you're going to be seeing this week later on. I think that there was a lot of discussion yesterday about the bounty board idea and the DeWork board. and this idea of a central location for all DAO content, a little bit like the Notion hub that you attempted to spin up back in the day. I feel like I heard a lot of discussion yesterday, like desiring and enunciating towards goals that are things that you tried to do about a month ago or so.
Well, that's
So,
great because honestly, I don't care at this point. They can figure that out. If that's what they want, they should do that.
and so when you say they, who is they? The DAO?
Whoever is being loud about it,
Well, and that's what I'm getting
whoever's
at here,
talking
because
about the idea.
well, it doesn't feel like Pixelcraft's leading anymore right now. It doesn't feel like you're in a position where you're wanting to lead the entire DAO anymore and be that the voice of the DAO kind of direction setter. And so at this point, it feels like the DAO itself is kind of making its own decisions, however it self-defines.
Yeah. My worry though is in that situation, the DAO will become one person. You know. So
I'm in it for the long haul. I like the arguments. I like the discussion. I like the governance model. I at least happy to always observe until provoked. But it'll be interesting to watch. Again, I still don't think that we're like failing. I'm pretty happy with how our operations work, whether or not we make good decisions. I still feel like the decision making tree is in place.
uh, I would I would push back on that a little bit and say that there is really no decision making tree. I mean, you can see how the whole even the vote itself for the funding went. It came down to again one entity, and not even that entity voting one way or the other, but the entity not being an active participant in the vote caused the vote to fail. So, um, again, talking
Oh, are we
about
talking about the vault? Because I think
yeah,
they got their vote in.
yeah, but I mean, there wasn't much of a vote. Like there wasn't really a whole lot of representation in terms of their voting power. It was a very small amount of votes that were cast.
What do you mean specifically then? So like the actual vault casted its 2 shares, which is like the combined 5 million or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That is the whole weight of the vault.
Yeah. No, I'm referring to the VLT. It was only 6,700 VLT out of the 250,000 VLT representation.
Gotcha. So you're talking about light participation within the VLT actual voting.
Apathy in another voting structure caused a main vote to fail, essentially. Yeah, 3% participation.
I don't think there's 250,000 VLT actually distributed. It's typically somewhere in that 20,000 to 30,000 VLT in any given vault vote. We've never seen a 250,000 vote put out or nothing like that. A lot of it got like stopped from emissions when they were still handing out the VLT. 20 votes is pretty lightweight, but I'm gonna just back check and see about common average.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I agree. Kind of with no future, it is kind of ridiculous, to be honest. For something that I would say is somewhat essential to the DAO. We were open to feedback on how it was done, so it's interesting to see how these ideas come out after the fact. But I'm not going to have my hand in it anymore, and so we'll see if there's any progress made on that. But I'm not very optimistic that there will be a whole lot that happens.
It sounds to me, based on what I saw from a lot of y'all, and I can understand the disappointment, but it sounds like the perceived media team's essentially done, right? Going on strike to an extent.
Not getting paid. I mean, you don't get paid for 2 months, 3 months. You're not showing up to work. So, I mean, it's a purely transactional at that point. Yeah, no future saying there's the
Yeah,
media team has funding for 2 weeks.
So you're already overdue, though, huh? You're already outside of the
2 months.
payment runway. Yeah, you're overdue.
2 months, and the
Mhm.
DAO doesn't want to pay for it. So it's like, why would I
Now,
show up
mind
to
you,
work?
the DAO, was it the DAO or was it DTF explicitly? Who provided the initial funding for y'all's efforts initially? And prior to the initial funding for media capture efforts, was all of this being done like pro bono?
No, I mean all of it done was done based on agreement. After the DTF thing ended, uh, there was no leadership in the DAO, and so I stepped up, and we kept going on that basis. I had some funding left for a couple months of pay, but then just 2 months ago when we were talking about executive leadership and all that, things kind of went on hold there for me, and so I was lenient, and so my leniency was actually taken advantage of by the DAO here, if I'm going to be honest. Um,
I will
yeah.
say this is one of the more contentious votes that has gone through recently. I mean, you usually don't see them end up this close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Totally.
Did anybody from the media team make any kind of attempt to discuss with the Gotchi Vault community or campaign over there for VLT votes or support?
Yeah, I had a conversation with Bearded actually, who was actually like, "Holy shit, you haven't been paid by the DAO. Like that's terrible." And sounded like there was going to be VLT support. If I was kind of surprised, if I'm going to be honest. But again, it just we see it every now and then where there's one vote from this one external entity. We need more of these entities. I think that's the solution moving forward. There can't be. This is a problem. I don't think it's not a problem. It's a problem, but the solution is just to have more of them. And so I'm looking forward to seeing other delegation services, honestly, because I think the vault is a little too concentrated, or has no competition, honestly, no representation on the other side.
I hear it from you
You
and
know,
no futuristic all the time. He's typing right here, right? He's why he called it out a year ago. So what's
yeah,
the actual solution then, though, boys? Like you guys keep saying, what the solution is that we need others. Where are they? Where are these other
yeah,
aggregators?
yeah, totally. I think Yannick's building out a solution right now with the vault, with the wearables arena or whatever he calls it, wearables warehouse. That's going to be definitely a service that people can use in that way. But we definitely need more, and I think the DAO could even do more to help people who want to develop things like this. We don't all have the resources of the Gotchi Vault, but we have the knowledge to build this stuff out. If we can get funding for it, then maybe we build out a delegation service built out by the DAO, so anybody can delegate. Like if we're letting one party delegate, we should be letting everybody delegate. There should be services in place for that.
Well, there's nothing preventing any of that from happening. It's
Hmm.
happened once, so there's what's like that's my question is what's the holdup with someone else doing this same approach?
I think there's probably some technical challenges there, but I see no futuristics typing out. Your VP can be controlled by you through your Orium safe. So Orium's kind of figured out some sort of a solution here.
They've retained
Um,
voting power to the depositors essentially, so it's like the Vault Plus. So you can deposit into a essentially an aggregated safe, but your voting power retains control within your wallet.
there should also be an opt out of delegation. We had this conversation a few months ago, and it seemed like the Vault crew was up for it, and then we never heard back about it. And it's like, well, this could make a difference. This is something you guys could do. That yes, it would be suboptimal for you, but it would probably move things towards the side of remedying this sort of a issue. Um, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I think that there's easy holes to poke in all these strategies here. So like the Orium safe isn't one big safe. There are lots of little safes, is what it is. And so it's like if there's mini vaults out there, and all of those had their own VP management
Yeah.
styles. My other question too is if they offered an opt out and no one selected it, then we still end up right where we are. And if we go to general delegation and lots of people that are kind of AFK in the ecosystem still decide to delegate to one entity and we still see a concentration of VP, what is the foul that's cried then?
Well, I mean, I'm still kind of looking at this as a failure of the DAO overall, but more specifically, it's like, I kind of agree with No Future's point here. It seems like a super villain play because it's like, well, we removed the media team, but where's the solution? What was the solution that was proposed yesterday? Did anybody from the Gotchi Vault come up and say, hey, we voted against this, but here's our follow-up solution to what we voted down, because we know this fucks over the DAO in a sense. There's going to be no more DAO meetings turning down this proposal.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. So yesterday at the meeting, I jumped in because Bearden was basically yelling at Harvard setup of national funding for bounties, data bounties, national funding for bounties. No one's fucking doing it. So I went and I wrote a forum post about let's make our next step of what is a bounty, we go on to this stuff, and let's get funding. So that's actively going, but I don't want to be involved in the process, but it's one of those things. Nothing gets done. It's starting to get annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's an open discussion there, but it's still like, I've asked like which bounty should we think of, what do we want for funding, what's the standards that we're looking for, and everybody's just kind of, sitting with their thumb up their ass, like actually coming with solutions.
Why do y'all think that the Gotchi Lodge proposal passed so much better than the media team? Because even that was relatively contentious, and we were questioned, and it wasn't anywhere near this close.
Well, from the feedback I received yesterday, like Layman's and a few people said it, was that we pushed the proposal after getting feedback, that we didn't take any of that feedback into account, which is bad. Like we were told certain things, we kind of said, hey, this is what we're doing, take it or leave it, and then they left it. So we have to reflect on that in the future, which is what I've been saying in my post in the forum thread, is that like, all right, you guys want to have an active part of this, let's figure this shit out. I put up all these ideas of how we can make this work, and now we need to be at the feedback and then the iteration phase. Clearly, the DAO wants more control of things, and it's annoying because it makes the whole process a little slower. But if we get what we need at this point is the bounty system, like literally just bounties up, and funding for the bounties. We lack the funding for the bounties right now. There's no money delegated to it. If we have that, then I think it's easier, like basically to continue our operations within the scope of what the DAO wants. Like if they don't want video editing, fine. I looked into yesterday because we're doing this for the Players Task Force. There are ways using Whisper to use ChatGPT to summarize videos. So as long as we have the audio, we can, you can make it a separate bounty that someone goes to ChatGPT and then concisely edits that down. What we need now is for the DAO to agree on funding and then go from there, finding candidates and then agree on what the compensation is. Because clearly, like that was the feedback I got yesterday, is that we weren't taking into consideration the actual feedback we received from people talking or commenting on the post. I also heard that about the extension, which makes me worried because we're going into a board prop that people might change their votes just to be, fucking idiots, and that might affect us, but that's a whole other issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I kind of agree with a lot of what you said there. I think that and it's I do agree with the feedback that we took. There was a lot of feedback in the post, but another thing is this thing went live as a SIG prop, and then people started getting loud about it, which is another annoying thing that we have to deal with all the time.
It's
Is
very
like this.
typical.
We've been talking about this media team thing for 3 months. 3 months. We probably spent 4 DAO meetings on it, and then the post itself was up for almost a week and a half, 2 weeks before the SIG prop was actually posted. So it's not like people didn't have the time. It's the SIG prop went up, and now people wanted to express their opinion about it. Which, in my opinion, the way to address that is to have another. Maybe it's an off-chain vote that happens, and that's the vote to essentially turn it into a SIG prop. Because I feel like without that sort of a verification last step, that there's been enough conversation about it, we're going to keep running into this issue where things go live as a SIG prop, and then people have to say something about it.
It's funny. I feel like we're just describing a lot of the practices that are supposed to already been in place. That's what exactly the discourse forum and or the Discord topic are meant to do, is be that SIG prop temp check. Maybe the discourse thread ends with a poll, right? Maybe the Discord forum needs a early poll before it goes to SIG prop.
Yeah.
We're seeing it right now because, like, even yesterday with the forum post I made, it's a very simple forum post. It's like, hey, clearly this isn't working, so I want to propose that we get funding for bounties. These are the bounties so far that I think that we need. We need a hosted mod. We need someone who is going to sustain the RSS feed, the audio, someone to stream it, and then someone to make concise summaries, right? And I'm like, plus, this is open, so whatever else we should add or subtract, we can all discuss here. And late in this without actually doing any of the due diligence.
Yeah.
What the hell this is about? And this happens a lot. It's just people who like jump in and want to air an opinion without any real information or anything really to add to the conversation.
Well, and they're also definitely associating past performance with future implications. Technically these should be two different efforts of discussion completely. And if it didn't work prior, so be it. But how is what you're proposing with the bounty system going to be an improvement is what the discussion that you're starting. And I mean, I will commend you on it. I know it's not fun. I know no one loves it. Governance is not sexy. But like that's why no one does it. It's a hard call. It's a hard sell. And so, yeah, it sucks to get in there and start the topic and get your ribs punched all the time. But like that's how it works.
Yeah, I'm experiencing that now with because yesterday the hope was I was going to get up and present about consensus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't make a forum post about it. So it's like, all right, I just want to know if you're interested. I don't want to write all this shit out for no reason. So then I went and I did the forum post and we're having conversation, but no one's really objecting what I'm saying, but they're not actually like, giving any feedback either. So it's just like, it's a circle jerk.
Yeah.
So, but it needs to be done because if we're gonna like, otherwise, like my fear, the only reason I put this proposal thing up about the values is like we've set up a foundation now. This is not the time to start moving backwards, and not having proper media is not the way. Like it's not like I told Twitter Dave, like I'm not gonna help hosting these events going forward. I did this mean just as a courtesy, and I have 2 weeks left on the contract, which like I said, I talked to Hardcore. I haven't gotten a chance with Zombie, but I would like for us to say fuck that down and take the 2 weeks of pay that we receive for the next 2 weeks and give it to you so that you're not a complete hole. But I think Hardcore's already spent the money. I still have to go, so I can do that if Zombie wants to do that. I just don't know how people feel.
I'll ask because I appreciate that. I would appreciate that. I feel like it kind of makes sense to just end it at this point. I don't feel like it makes sense to have some sort of an expectation set up every weekend that someone should be doing this at this point. I think we need to just end it and then go from there because it seems like the DAO probably has a better solution ready. And so I'm kind of curious to know what that solution is and how it's
No,
going to
you're
get
out of your
implemented.
mind. No way. They have no solution. That
Well,
was
then they
never.
fucked themselves, in my opinion,
Well,
because
you're
that
right.
was
They're
not the
being.
move.
Well, they're testing the system. This is like Velociraptors with electric fence, right? You have apparently at least 50% of the community that doesn't see the value in what y'all provide right now. And so they think that the bet is that this is money not well spent and we probably don't even need this and it'll probably not even be noticed if it stops. I do think that they're incorrect, but that is the working theory right now of that majority component.
That's why I've said in my proposal, like, look, I'm on the media team, and my job is the one that's going to get cut as a video editor and flipper. But we need to do something. It doesn't matter if you don't want me to do videos. I don't need any of these bounties. But we need to be able to have a weekly meeting where Coder Dan isn't just up there doing everything because he's not going to do that long term. This is not his fucking job. And just Hardcore is trying to step up to be a one-man band, but I don't think that is I think that's doing it the opposite way.
Agreed.
Centralizing too much, and anytime you give one person too much power, it's just a bad. And I have all the confidence in the world that Hardcore in his nutty own way will do a really good fucking job. But the day that he gets pissed off or doesn't want to do it anymore, then we're back here with no real solution. So it's better that we just accept the laws, take the feedback, and try to create some kind of infrastructure. I don't think it's going to be that hard because it's literally DAO. Give us funding. If you don't want to give us funding, then we all walk away. We at least need funding for the bounties, and then we can set up the bounties and the infrastructure of picking people. I've laid out some ideas for that, like hosting, like a candidates DAO meeting where anybody who wants to apply for these bounties can come up, present their case. If you have reputation, basically we'll allow for bounty time frames, maybe 1 month to 3 months per each bounty. But if you're a person without the reputation, you're on a week-by-week basis. At the end of all DAO calls of the initial election, it will be a safe prop. No need for more props. Doesn't affect protocol. And it can be a hostile election where at the end of each period, we have a safe prop for all 4 or 5 bounties. All the candidates presented and said, hey, this is what I'm able to do. We pick those people. And every week, at the end of the DAO call for a couple minutes, we talk back again to get these and ask the DAO, hey, how are the bounties going? Is the tweet thing that the text in summary is concise? We want these kind of goals and these efforts is that they is the stream 1920 by 1080 and meeting the standards, or does is the host on time and staying on subject, or does there's not like a lot of subjectivity for some of this stuff.
When you could probably accomplish that with a really simple type form too, post DAO call,
Yeah.
and just distribute the feedback form again, and then everyone can just asynchronously submit their opinions, and almost even anonymously, properly, and so then that way you can get some honest feedback about that particular service provider, and then we can use the feedback as the go or no.
And I hope we find some. I was gonna say through that process, what No Future's saying. I think we have a couple great ones, but people already know them. But I hope some other great hosts come through the woodwork. Honestly, if we had any more great hosts, we would have seen them already. But I think No Futuristic is your core host. We see you a lot. Myself, McCallum. I could see you being a host from time to time. I don't see anybody else, to be honest. I mean, that's who we get accused of being all the time. Oh, it's GMI. Well, where's everybody else? Where are all the other great hosts? I'm kind of curious now. Um, and if there are any great hosts, I'd love to see them. I'd love for them to step up.
That's kind of part of the plan that I was pushing forward to the idea that by having candidates stand up and say, hey, this is why I should be here, this is my demonstration of what I had, you're going to be able to kind of have a understudy program where the idea is like, say, we Hefe is the contracted host for this 3 month period, but there's a week that like gets in the way, we can't host, we have an understudy who can step up and just take your place for that week, the play is the place for that. But to do all of this, we just need like could have the standards in place that like basically put the funding down. The problem is everybody like right now there's this like idea that it's like there's no one like we're the only ones that are names in the hat we're in control of this, so it's like kind of not decentralized. This is what I'm saying. Let's just make the fucking bounty system. Like, I really don't even want to like manage or do anything. I just want to set up administratively the system so that we can just fucking get it over with. And then if it doesn't work, it's down error, then it's very clear that this process is flawed. With the voting, I would say like I like the idea of the same problem. Like, I'll try to literally make it so that this is setting like create like literally a emoji pool at the end of the down vote. It's going to be very clear like whether success or failure is I think it's going to be binary. You can't really fuck up the stream. It's either it's working or it's not working. There's not much subjectivity there. And then if you have some type of forms of this one advantage that where you could just be in the duty of the host at the end of the show to basically take a poll and see what the temperature is on their job, and then we just have regular elections every month. So it's going to be stupid, but the other thing is, and I will say this, I know nothing about ThriveCoin. I haven't been in any of the calls because I've been kind of busy, so I don't know what ThriveCoin is. Basically driving our solutions, but I'm skating here, so I'm open to that. I just haven't had any time to do any research.
It sounds like no. The big separator between the ThriveCoin discussion and say like DeWork is that DeWork is explicitly for like labor bounties. So we need a task done, and we need someone to take the task and do the task for payment. That's going to be more of the DeWork style. ThriveCoin is going to be much more of a like the expand pilot. So it's going to be much more of a here's some social actions and engagements that you can do. And if you do, then you can claim the qualification for it and be rewarded with incentives. It's not going to be about like bounties or labor sourcing. It's going to be more about rewards and incentives for engagement.
Yeah, so it's either the DAO has to either accept a decentralized plan, like media plan, kind of like what Dan was talking about, like the Forge, the media team, the men's team. Like, these are teams that are trusted, but it's decentralized in that way. Or they have to agree to fund a bounty system. They can't like if they don't fund
Yeah.
a bounty system that will basically make these bounties open to people. Then we're not really moving the needle at all.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think that you're describing it correctly. The DAO is not good at coming up with its own solutions. I've seen that plenty. It's free to have an opinion, and so
problem
lots
with
of
the
people
bounties
stand up
is
when there's an opinion time.
the problem with that. I'll also say with the bounty system that we tried when I was a PM, and it was difficult to do with one person, is reviewing the bounties and making sure they're done properly. Like, I do understand the tally forms in that, but if we're gonna have anything more than, for example, what a media team would do for bounties, we would probably want like a review team, which I've been saying for months. The D work system needs a reviewer. It needs either a reviewer or a group of reviewers. It needs those people. It also needs someone to possibly assess who gets funding. You should have someone there that's capable of assessing different types of bounties, creator bounties, anything really. I mean, they should have a diverse skill set to be able to look at things and say, well, this is worth funding and this is not. But the DAO didn't want that. They didn't want an executive team. And so I see, like, I don't see a decentralized bounty system working here, because we weren't even able to figure out the first step, which is who's going to look at the bounties. I'm curious to know if the DAO is going to step up this time. If someone's going to step up and say, I'm going to do it. But they didn't want to pay anybody to do this.
Yeah, that's why part of my suggestion only, and this is only for media team values, because like I
Yeah.
said, there's your media team value deliverable binary.
True.
It's not really subjective. So it's like that can be reviewed by consensus. Literally, sick props, so everybody votes in it, and then informal polls at the end of the meetings. Because in terms of like success or failure, in the stream, actually stream, is the audio good? Sick prop to figure that out.
True.
Common sense. And in my post, I even said, I'm like, I'm 100% like certain that Bearded and Zico are not going to miss the ability, or not take the opportunity to point out a deficiency if they can. And I was like, I've done these streams where, like, if someone on the stream, my audio almost always works. But if there's an audio issue, people know immediately and they say something and it's something we can fix. If a candidate who's doing a bounty, on week one, they fuck up. We all know that. It's like, if it's, there's reasonable, like, the internet, whatever, that's different. But, like, if you don't have the capabilities, then it's going to be very clear, because this is really subjective. Like, were you able to host the stream properly? Were you concise? Did you stay on top of it?
Yeah, totally. No, I agree. I mean, maybe that's a great place to start. Maybe the media team bounties are a place to start, and then to work from there. So
It's it means what it means. It's a little contentious, but all of this kind of cracks me up to an extent, because I feel like this is what this was my vision for what GMI could help with, is this middle layer between taking the liability of failure, but also being able to source groups for overall community missions. And so right now we're watching it try to be done without team structure. And so the teams are truly decentralized. It's literally just the four of y'all is the media DAO team sourcing. And I think that a lot of people see some vulnerabilities and some dependencies in that individual based model.
I mean, that's fine if GMI is the one doing it, but I think that's going to just cause people to find another place to accuse and say, well, GMI now is doing this. Yeah,
I know, but someone has to break through. Well, the problem with yesterday's conversation is Bearded had this weird assumption that GMI was represented by some of y'all's opinions, and like people that aren't even that closely associated with GMI leadership are GMI's receiving the brunt of their perceived reputations, and so everyone's fighting uphill right now.
yeah. That's what it sounds like.
That directly affects voting. If a populace that's not informed correctly can win. Once again, I'm not advocating for conspiracy theory, but like when I see hits of it, it brings joy to my heart, because like they're fun, not that it's real, but like
Maybe it is real.
I mean, but do you not think that to like fight the supervillain that we're going to need like a team of super friends to actually work together as a group?
Well, I mean, let's just throw this out there, right? With what No Future is saying with the Richard Murdoch stuff. let's say we put a thing out in the DAO that says because we don't have proper dissemination of information, we're not going to have a proper forum to discuss things. I think any proposal now over 2,000 Go should probably we should just put a hold on funding completely. How would the DAO feel about that? Do
I
you
don't think
think?
it'd get approved.
I know exactly, but it would probably be the right thing to do because it's like if the DAO is going to be giving out $250,000 for Forge upgrade, we should probably have a place to talk about that really extensively.
Do
And
you
so
think that the DAO forum topics and or the discourse prior is failing in that regard? Do you think that the media team presentation was indeed the watershed of content, and now without that, the DAO forums and discourse are going to not be effective? How did the first 20
absolutely.
ASGIPs get passed?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the way discourse worked before, you look at the old posts, a lot of them, they're very selective with which ones got engagement, which ones weren't. Now you look at where we're at in the DAO forum, which I do think is an improvement. You do see significant engagement there, but a lot of that is follow up from conversations we've had on a meeting in person, live.
Well, even the DAO
You know,
forum, like the DAO call, even that's a new piece that didn't used to exist.
well, it's been around for almost a year now, so like half of
I know, but the
Aavegotchi's
DAO's been around
existence.
for exactly the same. So what happened that first year? How did like you thinking that the DAO just didn't have good intel or bad participation?
We weren't dispersing any funds.
Yeah, I went back and looked at it because I was interested in seeing, because like we're having the conversation about overlap of ambassadors' duties, and like I looked at it. Last week was week 45 of the Dow calls, so like the ambassador program had ended by the time these Dow calls started.
Yep.
And when I was looking and kind of gathering this information, I noticed like we've had an explosion of AGIPs since then. Like I believe like when
Yeah.
we started these Dow meetings, we were still in like in the like either early 20s or late teens for AGIPs, and now we're up to 70. So it's like a lot of AGIPs and that request for funding have come through where previously they hadn't. And like as just as a note from yesterday, like yesterday Bearden was like pressing hardcore about these bounty systems, and it's like he's giving us the tool to potentially like appease them. Let's do this bounty. This is what they want, right? So I set up that I asked him like, is this conversation we're having here enough like feedback for me to go and make this forum post? He's like, yeah, I think that we need this, so you should do that. I set up the forum post. I haven't gotten any from him or anybody else on that side of things on the forum post about bounties. So it's like we can try to appease them. I think that's our best weapon because we do have weapons here in fighting the supervillain. But if we try to we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I think though it's important that like it just me as a media guy keep transparency at the top of everything. So having proper media here is going to be important, even if it has to be by bounty. It's just a matter of I don't think the forums are really effective though. A meeting is effective. It gives a record to people who aren't active in Discord that they can go back and listen to or watch or read.
I mean, but they blatantly have to follow up the conversation then in a Discord forum or something if they're async.
Yeah, but at least they have a way to be informed because right now, like with the current media blackout that's going to happen after 2 weeks, there's going to be no information or no discussion outside of Discord. So I mean, we operated like that for a while. This is not the way for a mature DAO slash foundation. And that's my work. Things are going to go wonky, and like my next step in my mind is I'm going to step down as a director. If we're not doing things right, it puts me at risk that we do something stupid and now we're labeled security and my ass gets sent to jail. And I'm not going to take that risk because people are playing supervillain games.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good example of that where that was actually mitigated during a meeting, and it was talking about some funding to somebody who's potentially in a country that was sanctioned. That would have never came up in a forum post. That came up live during a meeting, and that was discussed during a meeting. That would have been one example where I think if that was discussed in a forum, that might have been overlooked. You know,
Well, I mean, I don't know, Hefe, because you're kind of the one that brought that up to light, in that live moment. You spotted it. And so if we weren't on a call, I would assume that you would have also maybe pinged directly on that comment within the forum. You would
probably
have,
not because I'm not that active in the forums. I'm not that active
if
in
there
the
were no
forums.
calls, then you would have no choice but to be active in the forums because it
I
would be the only platform.
I wasn't though. If you look at my what where I came in, if you look before that, I hardly ever commented on the forums.
I mean, because you guys
Yeah.
count on the calls, though. You guys are really good about being on mic, and not necessarily always catching the text comments because you are in a verbal format. If there were no verbal format, then we would all be watching the text chat much closer.
Yeah, but I mean that's different because I think the dad wouldn't be paying for anybody to be in a text chat. That would be on your own volition. I wasn't in there on my own volition. Maybe I should have been, but some people are, some people aren't. So yeah,
No,
I
I hear
just
you
wasn't.
guys. I mean, I voted yes for sure, and I'm happy. Whether or not the amounts are where I personally think they should be, or whether the work is defined well enough, I am still in an experimental funding phase, and I think that the ask was um, a sustainable ask. And
Well,
so,
and
if
whether
anything, give y'all the
what
contract and let's run it for 6 months, and then we can have an honest discussion about value delivery.
Well, even whether it was or whether it wasn't, right? I mean, so this was turned down. And so I'm expecting whatever alternative is proposed is going to be cheaper than the average salary on the low end for a US resident. That's what this proposal was. It was funding a media team for the average price of one US average salary, probably even on the low end, because I think I might not be completely familiar with y'all's pay grades, but one average person working at Target, for example, was going to fund this media team. So I'm looking forward to seeing what alternatives are proposed if they are actually, in fact, more fiscally responsible than that.
I will say,
I'm
y'all,
really looking forward to that. I don't
yeah,
feel like it's
y'all,
going to be the case, but
y'all
we'll
crack me
see.
up because a denial of one proposal is not implication that there is a solution alternative.
Well, I mean, then we can call it a failure, right? Is like there was no proposed solution. The best solution was voted down, and there's no follow up. To
The
me,
only solution
that's
was voted down by best by
yeah.
default. It was the only thing on the table.
Yeah, it's like me a lot less dashboard. Like that's something we've asked for. It's an interesting thing. I get like why people might not like it because of whatever continued funding, but there's literally no other alternative. Now that has been an argument made by some people that just because there's no alternative doesn't mean that we shouldn't vote on it. But the thing is, if there's no alternative, we have to like either somebody has to step up, like create an alternative. It's like with the Aavegotchi Aarena people complaining, not inviting everybody in. This is a bid. Our bid doesn't have to include you. If you have a counter bid, go for it. If not, then the market will decide.
That's how I feel about the vault too.
This market is, yeah, the market right now is inefficient and stupid, and it's gonna figure it out the hard way. But
It'll stay that way. It'll stay inefficient, stupid. That's why there's opportunity that exists for people like us that are willing to write proposals and campaign hard. Like it's because no one else will.
yeah, we'll just have to see. The down and what I've read so far was like overwhelmingly asking for bounties to be set up for this media stuff. That they think that will be an effective decentralized way to do it.
Well, and there's definitely some confusion still happening in the space too, and I'm with you guys 100% in defending this particular mentality. But we're watching again the rise of metric requests. Where are the metrics? Where are the numbers that prove that this media effort is working? And media and marketing are very intangible result projects,
Mhm.
and so it's very difficult to place metric burdens on those performers. It's not realistic.
It's also like I was arguing with somebody yesterday that they were like, I would not fund this because I was making the statement. I'm like, yo, this is like straight up news. Like, where this is about dissemination of information. If you don't think videos are necessary, that's fine. But a concise text summary, I don't see why anybody would have pushback to that. He's like, well, it should be an aspect of marketing. It's a bill. It makes sense because it's propaganda. This is
Yeah.
not propaganda. This is supposed to be information dissemination. Ambassadors are propaganda. That should be separate from actual telling everybody what the DAO is doing is not marketing. You can try to make it into marketing, but that's not the goal. Like Zombie Sucker pointed out, no, like the reason this content is like entertaining is not entertaining. Nothing that we do for marketing is going to make this information